to Test This, the podcast designed to help software testers understand risk and adopt new testing solutions with ease and confidence. Your host is Mahamadou, a quality assurance consultant with over 10 years of experience across multiple industries. In each episode, he'll talk to different experts and learn from them about how they test.
Hi, everyone, and welcome, Missy, for being here with us.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. For those who don't know Missy Trumpler is a leader in Agile and artificial intelligence. She is the CEO of AgileAI Labs, where she focuses on solving one of the biggest challenges in software development, which is poor requirements that can cause up to 7% of the defects. Her mission is to help teams catch up problems earlier instead of fixing them later, meaning shifting from reactive testing to proactive quality intelligence. That's why her team developed Spec2TestAI, a tool that analyzes requirements early and identifies risks before a single line of code is written. Missy also shares her insights on the future of AI-driven quality engineering and how teams can prevent defects before they happen. Missy, thank you for being here and sharing your experience.
Yeah, good to be here.
Thank you. So in this episode, we'll be talking mainly about Spec2TestAI. So first, Missy will share her background and experience with AI. Then we'll discuss what is Spec2TestAI and why it's worth adopting. After that, we'll talk about some common mistakes and good practices. Next, we'll discuss how to make the most out of Spec2TestAI. And to conclude, we'll share insights to level up with this tool and beyond. So thank you again, Missy, for being here. My first question for you is, could you share your journey from working to sustainability and your transition into the AI space?
Yeah, so for years, I worked as on the operational side. So I was involved with operations and sustainability. And I was working with companies all the time to help them to become, number one, more efficient and identify where they had loss, whether it be through waste. Waste streams are a great way to identify savings, right? Because when you save money, it's as good as making money, quite frankly. I worked with them on the physical plant side of facilities and things of that nature, but also the operational and strategic piece. And what we used to do is we would go into organizations, that would be my former company. We would go into organizations, identify those waste streams, the resource use, and try to work with them to become more efficient and more resilient. Because sustainability isn't just looking at the snapshot of where you are now, it's looking at where you're heading and how you can improve workflows and make your stakeholders happy. But I'm not even talking about like public stakeholders where you're talking about your stock owners, but where you're talking about the people that actually work in the company, right? Because when you have people that are all working on the, pulling in the same direction and are happy and excited about going to work every day, your products, your services tend to reflect that. So that was pretty much how we used to look at everything, was through they called it the triple bottom line, which was people, planet, profit. And that's making sure your people are well taken care of within an organization, making sure you're not over draining physical resources from the environment, whether that be energy, water, physical material resources, and profit, meaning there's a balance where you're not wasting money and you're saving money, but also you're making money. So it was this, and we used to call it the sustainability sweet spot, when you found best practices that literally those three things intersect. And how did that turn into AI? Well, I was working in that industry, and quite frankly, kind of the groundswell, you could start feeling that things were starting to move towards AI a lot. And data centers, because I was very involved with energy management, data centers were starting to become a main piece of topic of conversation. And then I have a colleague that I work with that works with Agile, that she was talking to me about the different things going on with AgileAI Labs. And she had met this founder, and that was Scott Aziz, who is the man who started the company. And she was telling me about the product and what it does. and the operational efficiency piece of it, as well as the improvement in stakeholder lives, meaning people in quality assurance that are working and using our platform, the time that it saves them on repetitive, redundant tasks. For me, it was kind of like, oh, this is actually right up my alley of what I've been doing. It's just a more focused lens. And I really wanted to learn more about AI. Why? Because it's either you're going to fear it or you're going to understand it and be part of the good that it can do. Because it's scary, don't get me wrong. And AI it's a little overwhelming. I promise you that. And the more I know, the more it unnerves me, to be honest. But it has such possibility and capability for good in this world that I think we need more people that are involved in trying to direct it that way. So that was the bridge.
Yeah, I got it. Now it makes sense. It makes sense. In this adventure, you joined Scott Aziz, like you said. What made him start Spec2Test AI framework?
Well, this is one of the things that I love about this company so much is that AgileAI Labs was truly founded on the concept of improving quality in software development and improving it for the people that are involved in building software, but also for the end user. Because let's be honest, a lot of the problems in software that have existed up until this point are having to do with not embedding quality. And most of that starts in the requirements piece, right? So if you look at the process, because I'm a very process oriented person, if you look at the process of software development, the concept is that you start at the requirements and then those requirements get handed off to separate teams. It gets handed off to your development team. It gets handed off to your testing team. And your testers are supposed to build tests that test on the code that is derived from those same requirements. Well, if you don't have those teams communicating and really in lockstep with each other and fully understanding the same interpretation of those requirements, then what's going to happen is your tests it's like garbage in, garbage out. Your tests aren't going to pass most likely, or if they do, are they even testing for the right thing in the requirements? And it's really looking at it with a different lens. So the concept that Scott understood was when large language models first became publicly accessible in November of 2023, which when I say it, he literally started going to work on the platform as soon as they became available because he knew that this was a gap that he wanted to close because he'd been in quality assurance for the last 30 plus years, 35 now. But so his idea was if we can build better requirements and have them be directly traceable to the tests, then we're off to a much better start than testing has had up until this point. And we're specifically based around the agile workflow. However, obviously, waterfall and other workflows dovetail beautifully into the platform because they're not all that different. But the problem with Agile is Agile took for granted that organizations were going to spend time on writing good requirements. So Agile started becoming all about speed, right? So being Agile is not just about speed, it's really about toning and refinement. And that leads to speed. But that's really not the way that it works. So what ended up happening is in deference to speed, they pushed out products and it was okay if they broke when the end user had them, and then they're just going to go back and fix them rather than making sure that they're doing a really solid job on the testing piece, right? So the concept was to deal with the requirements, hone them, enhance them, make them context rich, build solid acceptance criteria, and then move those into the test cases. And now we've totally closed the gap and we now create prompts for AI coding tools because that became another huge problem with speed. It's all about speed with the AI coding tools, but you now have to hire people to come in and read through every line of code to make sure there's no hallucination, that it has context, that it's understandable, that it's not going off the rails. So what we did was actually, we just released this year, was we took the same requirements that are developing the test cases that are fully traceable, and now we've developed a fully traceable set of prompts for front end and back end development, service level development, any type of development that an AI coding tool is used for. We create prompts for now directly from your requirements. So now we've kind of covered the entire gamut from soup to nuts: requirements to coding, requirements to testing. And those tests are coming from exactly the same requirements and being interpreted exactly the same way as the code prompts, right? So now you're actually testing for what the requirements we're building for. So we're really excited about it, actually. But that was the idea, was to make software, like embed quality into software right from the requirements piece, and then take it all the way through. And that's what Scott saw as the gap. And as AI coding tools started to hit the market, well, that's just created a whole other problem, you know? And so now we moved into the prompting piece as well, so that the tests and the testers are able to easily have solid tests and create good tests. We don't remove the human from the loop. That's key. We don't want to remove the human from the loop. You have to have people in there that are subject matter experts in their areas, that are making sure that the enhanced requirements, for example, are demonstrating, are ready to build exactly what the product owner wants. The same thing with the testers. And you can edit test cases within our platform. You can edit the prompts within our platform. Of course, you can edit the requirements, but to make sure that there's a through line all the way from the requirements piece, the building idea, the specifications, spec, to test.
Okay. Yeah. But you say a lot of things. One question I may have now is, like, we saw a lot of company investing a lot in AI. What are the biggest mistakes are you seeing them making?
Well, I think it depends on the company, of course. It depends on the organization. But I can tell you, the majority of companies that we have demonstrated for and worked with, they are trying to address the requirements problem to begin with. Like, requirements and acceptance criteria, particularly acceptance criteria, has been problematic for a lot of companies and organizations. And quite frankly, when layoffs happen and they bring in people that are new at doing it takes a while to build that knowledge. So, and AI doesn't have that knowledge right off the bat. You've got to embed it, number one. So, another problem that we're seeing is, quite frankly, is purchasing tools that only address one piece, right? So, for example, there's a tremendous amount of automated testing tools now that have flooded the market. I mean, it's hard to even decide which one you want to use, but you're still not dealing with the real problem, which is, if those testing tools are not traceable directly from the requirements, you're still testing the same problem that you were testing before, where you can have garbage in, garbage out. That's not to say that the tests aren't being run significantly faster, right? Great. But if you're still not testing on a solid requirement, how good are those tests going to be in the long run? And if those tests are still not taking the same information and building those tests around what's being coded specifically, how good are those tests going to be? You still have the same problem. And of course, there's a lot of automated tools around coding. We've seen that. So people are diving into that. But if you don't have good requirements building the prompts, your code is going to be lacking, way worse than it was before, when coders were dealing with poor requirements, right? So keeping it siloed, it does not have to be like that anymore. In fact, I see that is actually going to be the biggest benefit coming out of AI, is it's going to tear down those silos, and testers are going to be able to be working right with a requirements person to help build those requirements better with the developers to help build those requirements better. So there's a through line that goes from spec all the way to test. So I think that's the biggest mistake, is just plugging in AI to parts of the process instead of looking at the process as a holistic piece or process that you need to address. And AI can do that, right? Our platform where it's at right now, we actually it has a knowledge base for every project, and you can communicate with it, right? So we have a coach bot, it's a chat bot, but I call it a coach bot within that project that's gathering all the information that's being put into the platform on that project. And so think of it like the Project Einstein, right? So it's that one piece that keeps every little piece of information associated with the project. So when the testing team has a query, it's coming from the same information, not an interpretation, but from the information that's already been vetted by your team. And the same thing with your SME or your business analyst, the same thing from your developer. So when you have that information all together, that then can be queried, and then you have a much better opportunity to put out a better quality product. And that's the point, right? That's why we got involved in this in the first place. That's why Scott created the platform.
Let's say I have my requirements. I'm a company with my requirements. Can you walk me through the entire process from soup to nut, like you said?
Yeah, it's actually very simple. It's It's simple as far as simple as it could be. So basically what you can do is you can bring your project over, you can bring your requirements over from Jira or Azure DevOps. Those are the two most common management programs at this point for requirements. You can automatically bring them over, or you can type your requirement, you can copy and paste it or build it right in our platform. And basically it has the user story, the acceptance criteria. You put that information in. You click a button for that user story. You click the button, and our platform goes through a 32-point analysis of your user story and acceptance criteria. Now, keep in mind, the platform has over 5,000 hours of training at this point. So it's guardrailed, and it's been trained on positive scenarios and negative scenarios. So it takes that information and it enhances your requirement. And it looks at things like SMART, which, specific, measurable, timely. Can you do this? The timing of it. Is there a time relation to it? So it builds a better requirement, a better user story, removes all the ambiguity that it finds, and it also builds acceptance criteria. So you literally could put in a 2-sentence user story and no acceptance criteria, and it will build all that for you. Then we provide clarifying questions. And the clarifying questions, because the platform doesn't know anything yet, right? This is your first user story. It doesn't know everything about your requirements yet. So as you're putting requirements in, it's learning from them, right? It's not learning from anything else outside of the platform or outside of your organization. It doesn't do that. We don't allow that. So it's very secure in that respect. But basically now it takes that enhanced acceptance criteria and that enhanced user story and poses all the different questions, stakeholder questions and clarifications needed. The clarifying questions are the most important questions. Like, we need you to answer this because there's a gap in information that the platform can't fill. So there's a series of questions. It allows you to engage the chatbot to suggest an answer, and then you can edit it. So that happens in literally minutes. You can go in and answer, say there's 15 clarifying questions. You can go in and answer those pretty easily. It also identifies the most important and critical defects that have been identified within your user story. Now, keep in mind, if you've entered 50 different user stories, those defect potentials will also call out if there's a collision between user story 10 and user story 30. Like say you have incompatible information, that defect potential area will call that out and say, whoa, you need to fix this because this conflicts with this user story. So the information you're putting in here is either has to be, you have to resolve this problem. So we call that out. When you're done, you click another button and you re-enhance and it takes all the information you just put in and it re-enhances the requirement. Now you have a requirement that is ready for development. So it all turns green. Everything turns green and says you're good to go. You push a button and you generate test cases. And we have a whole bunch of different test cases. And by the way, our platform automatically generates security requirements. And based on the OWASP top 10 method. But if you have security compliance documents for this project that you need to keep in line with, all you have to do is upload them into the platform and it will absorb that information and it will make sure that your user story and acceptance criteria are in sync with that security requirement, that regulatory compliance document that you put in. It will do the same with a BRD, business requirements document. So you can upload too. So you have very personalized company or project information. And it will analyze against that personalized project information. So now you built your enhanced requirement, you push the button, you can generate test cases, or you push a different button and you can generate your code prompts. And so now we have an MCP integration, so we can integrate on the coding side with any type of coding tool to literally have the AI start coding from those prompts immediately. Do you just pull the requirement, the user story over into the coding tool and boom, get started there. And then with the test cases, we actually have something new that's coming in the next couple of months as well, where we're partnering with a company to do to provide us with synthetic data so that you can run those tests. But we do not do automated testing. We do what's called predictive testing. So we create UAT tests, edge tests, negative tests, accessibility tests. So we have a myriad of what are normally manually generated test cases that are directly traceable back to the requirement. We also provide the test coverage amount. And then we have another patented piece of our platform, which we call predictive testing and code analysis. So that code that the AI just created from your prompts, you can check that. If it's in GitHub, you can check it into our platform. And our platform will take all the tests that it just created. And it can be literally 20 functional test cases and 15 accessibility test cases and 20 UAT test cases. And in less than 60 seconds, it will analyze all those tests against your code and tell you in less than 60 seconds exactly where those tests are predicted to fail, if they're going to fail, or if they're going to pass. So in this this process it just takes a lot of the room for error out of the process because it's not siloed, right? It's a collaborative environment between the SME and business analysts and project managers and scrum masters, the developers and the testers. So it's the entire process that it's covering. So it's quite simple, right? I mean, basically you put in the information, you push some buttons, you answer questions, and you're now ready with code prompts and you're ready with test cases.
And how long does this entire process take?
Well, it really depends on the team, right? So if you were to just go from the requirements piece to the to generating tests, it can be very fast if you want to bypass all the questions, which we do not recommend. That's one of the reasons why we created them in the first place. You could do it in literally like 3 minutes. But because we do recommend that you answer those questions, it really depends on how long it takes your team to answer the questions, right? If there's 15 questions, it could take you 15 minutes to work through them. It could take you half an hour. But like I told you, the chat bot that we have that is learning everything from the project. You can push a button and it'll answer the question for you, and then you just approve the answer or you make changes to it. So, and that happens in seconds. And then the predictive testing piece happens in seconds. And the prompt creation probably takes 60 seconds. So I would say the longest process is creating all the different tests, and that takes usually between 1 minute and 30 and 2 minutes.
Okay. And who is the target user of this tool?
It's your entire SDLC. So business analysts can 100%, they can benefit from the value of creating very strong, solid requirements. Your coders, your developers, especially if they're now adopting AI coding tools with the prompts, it's basically creating those prompts for you. All you have to do is plug in your compliance documents, your architectural docs. You upload those. You give our platform the information of what your code, how your code works, what code you want to put in, and boom, in less than a minute, it'll create a prompt from that requirement for your tool. And it can be, like I said, front end, back end, operational, DevOps prompts. And then on the testing side, it benefits the testers exponentially because it completely removes having to create manual test cases. It does it for you in a moment. And you can, like I said, you can make any type of adjustments that you need. You can upload your testing libraries. You can upload examples of your automation code, and we provide that. And actually, we're working on perfect traceability to the test automation code. So you can easily plug that into a testing tool or the automated testing tools. So it really is to address the entire SDLC. So anybody that's working in the life cycle process has a place at the seat at the table with this tool.
Okay. And do you have an example of successful project when Spec2Test was implemented successfully?
We have actually several. So for example, we had we partner with a lot of software IT services companies. And to be honest, I'm going to give you a couple of things, but on the partnership side, because we're always looking to partner with more IT services companies, the leverage or the edge that our platform is giving them when winning work has been, they told us it's second to none. There is no platform that's doing what yours is doing. So that's awesome. But we had one of our companies, we have these white papers up actually too on the website at AgileAI But we had one where they were modernizing a mainframe, and basically they were taking and building new requirements in order to take the mainframe operations and put it into the cloud. And they used our platform to create that bridge and do the requirements refinement because they needed to rebuild requirements and make them cloud ready. So they used our platform for that. And that they said they knocked off months worth of time in using our platform to do that. And the traceability and the audit trail, because literally you can push a button and everything that's being done is shown. So that's another piece that's important. We are fully transparent on every single thing that AI is doing in our platform because we think the users need to know. There is no black box in our platform. Everything is out in the open. Another one that was an insurance company where they were updating new policies, and our platform was used again to refine the requirements and improve the requirements to testing piece, and also embed new security policies in around the insurance company's policies. We have another organization that has used everybody's benefiting from the requirements wholeheartedly, that used our requirements enhancement they had about 200 defects a month is what we were told, and they've knocked those down to about 20. For a huge organization, that's a huge success, obviously, because they reduced their defects by 90%. And our platform is just improving as AI improves and as your project information improves, right? So the information you're adding in user stories and you're answering and clarifying questions, the requirements piece improves as well, as does the testing piece, as does the coding piece. So we've had great success in different areas. So for quality assurance, though, as the umbrella, that was the mindset of building the platform, quality first.
Okay. And what makes Spec2Test different from other AI tools that hallucinate, for example, or are not secured?
Definitely the amount of training. Really, when I say 5,000 hours, I'm not exaggerating. We've been working with this platform and guardrailing since day one. The transparency piece. And keep in mind that helps with the guardrailing, right? Because if a user can see have an understanding of the reason why our AI engine is doing what it's doing, then you have the ability, number one, to change some information. But number two, you literally have the understanding as to what is happening with that AI through the entire process. That is different. A lot of people have the black box, way of doing things. That's not us. We want you to see. And part of that is because so our chief operations officer, her name's Peggy Knox. She came from the big banks, the banking system, and she was in
Yeah.
corporate risk. So she was always having to deal with traceability with requirements to test cases, right? So not only was Scott looking at it from there, but when Peggy came in and she was looking at it with her corporate risk from some of the most risk averse organizations in the world, she was
Mm.
looking at it saying, we've got to keep this traceable right from the requirements piece. And actually, that's why she came on board, was when she saw what was happening with the requirements. So that's been a huge differentiator. It's a huge differentiator. And not only that, but we also deal with the entire SDLC process. We're not just plugging into your automated testing. You can use us for that, but that's not the point. The point is to be able to go from the beginning to the end of the process. And that's one of the things that I tell people, like when we're in front of at conferences and things like that. Say a tester comes up to me and says, what do you think I should be doing? Where is AI going? Testers understand why projects fail, right? As well as anybody else. So my recommendation is learn the entire process. And a platform like ours can help you do that because it's telling you everything that's happening that should be happening in a project, and you can learn from it. That's another thing I love about the platform.
Yeah.
I've learned more about software development from the platform, and good software development than I probably have in my lifetime of being on the product owner side of software development.
But if these tools can handle everything, are still humans needed?
Yeah. With AI, humans are necessary. In fact, in my mind, in my understanding of what is going on with AI, the most important piece is that we have humans in the loop. First of all, if it's traceable, who's reviewing the traceability if it's not a human? We're going to have AI do that. AI hallucinates, but AI also manipulates. Let's be real on this. Because hallucinating would be it's just throwing out like something that is completely unrelated, but it's not doing that. It's throwing out things that look related. It may be unrelated, but it still gives the facade of looking like it belongs. That's really scary. Think of that when say you're developing a weapons system, say you're developing a monetary system, right? Or a piece of a banking system. If AI is like an AI coding tool or even a testing tool is being used and it's creating nonsense, but it's approving the tests because it doesn't want to flag itself as creating something bad, we have a problem. And I think what we're learning, or what we've been learning over the last year, And I know people have come at me and they'll be like, well, that's not really true. AI is getting better. I think AI is akin to an 8-year-old, right? 8-year-olds can learn languages, they can absorb incredible amounts of information, but they're just regurgitating information. That doesn't mean that they have the synopsis to put together information properly so that it is contextual, right? But you can still have a brilliant 8-year-old that can regurgitate or spit out information that puts pieces together when you tell it to, right? But an 8-year-old, if you ask it a question and it's uncomfortable with answering the question because it's going to get itself in trouble or reveal something that it did wrong, sometimes that 8-year-old's going to lie. Or sometimes that 8-year-old is going to make up something that sounds good, but isn't necessarily accurate. And so that's the way I look at AI at this point. So do you want to send your 8-year-old out to create a system of banking, a system of Bitcoin, an insurance analysis system? No, no, that would be ridiculous. But are you okay with, if you have this genius 8-year-old, having them sit there and read through information and say, oh, yes, this is accurate, and it's traceable. I can see this, I can see that. Yeah. Are you okay with having it regurgitate information? Sure. But are you okay with it designing and building? No, absolutely not. And to say that it's farther along than this, I don't know that I agree. If you look at a lot of different litigation that's going on and things that have come up, there's bias that still goes on in AI. I know they've tried to remove, at least different AI organizations have tried to remove it as much as possible. There's certainly some AIs that are doing better than others. Claude is extraordinary. We use OpenAI. It's extraordinary, but it's extraordinary in that it's been trained, right? Just like an 8-year-old gets trained. It doesn't just go from 8 to 20 without absorbing knowledge and information and context. And that's the point, right? So God forbid we take the humans out of the loop, you know?
Yeah. And you also said this platform is transparent. How do you guarantee like the user will know what's going on and not like a regular black box like the popular ChatGPT, who you don't know what's going on, where the data is coming, where it's going, etc. Is it different with your platform?
Yeah. Everything that we do, like for example, the requirements analysis and enhancements, we have a side by side. Here was your original requirement. Here's your enhanced requirement. Then you can literally click on the different analysis pieces within the platform, and it will show you all of the analysis that was done and how the story was rewritten to address that piece of analysis, the next piece of analysis, all of the defects and ambiguity problems and compatibility issues. We call out every single little thing. All you have to do is click a button. You can read everything that was done. The traceability, you click a button, it shows you exactly how what requirement the test was developed from, which piece of information. It's all there. Everything that it's doing, we provide that information for you and show it to you.
Okay. And my last question for today, can you share us your vision about Spec2Test on AI in general as well?
Yeah, sure. We definitely have a lot. We're always innovating, and honestly, our roadmap is long. But what we are looking at right now is obviously I told you we were looking at doing the synthetic data piece so that we have integrations with being able to run those types of tests, automatically populate that into our system, but also to be able to seamlessly integrate with some testing tools on the back end, right? Because they have that easily right now for AI coding tools. It's not quite as simple with AI testing tools. So we also have traceability to test automation scripts, and that will create that type of ease as well. We have traceability to the test cases, but now we want to do it to the automation scripts as well. And then the next piece is we are going to be looking at agentic. In fact, we've already been looking at agentic because a lot of organizations, we have some pieces of the platform already that have agentic capability, but where literally you can push a button and it can do, it can take a requirement, enhance it, and go all the way through the process basically with just the push of a button. So we are looking at that. But to tell you the truth, we'd rather it go slower because, quite frankly, people are still having to do a bunch of work with AI. So you got to keep the human in the loop. And we prefer keeping the human, a few more humans in the loop that are all subject matter experts in their field. So, and as I was saying before, the thing that I can highly recommend is for everybody involved in software development, learn the entire process. Because if you can work with a platform or a tool that's going quality assurance goes from the beginning of the process to the end. So if you can work with tools or a tool that literally will teach you that you can learn from, but also that you can use to go from the beginning to the end of the process, do it. And consider creating your own type of organization or business, whether, and if it's in the IT field, maybe it can be where you create your own platform, not necessarily to compete with ours per se, but say that there's other things in life that you're interested in. Everything is moving in this direction, you know. So you just never know where there's going to be a good fit, and the difference is training. Don't just slap a chatbot on an LLM. Train it, guardrail it, make sure it's well thought through and traceable. I would say that too.
If I'm interested in Spec2Test, what are the steps to get started?
It's actually pretty easy. All you have to do, it seems like it's more complex, but all you have to do is go to our website, which is www.agileailabs.com. And you can click a button and it says contact us or start a free trial or get a demo. You can click on one of those and it'll send an email and we will get back to you ASAP and we can run a demo for you. You can also go to our YouTube site. Our YouTube site is Spec2TestAI, and we do have some video shorts. We have actually a much longer demo that has the ROI associated with it. And that's from before we put in the coding piece, the prompts. So they're different, obviously, as we've grown. We've been in lockstep with what's come out with AI. So as we've grown and the capability of AI grows, we innovate more. So we will, you can actually see the metamorphosis of the platform kind of on our YouTube page. But you can go there and check out some of the small demos that we have. And I will be posting another good sized demo on now that we just did the release with the prompting piece. So that'll be coming up shortly, but just go to our website and you can easily send an email and we'll get back to you and we'll set up a demo. And if you want to try it for free, we'll set that up as well.
Okay, so thank you very much, Missy. That's been a valuable conversation. I've learned a lot from it. I'm looking forward to get started with Spec2TestAI. Thank you for sharing your insight. So for those who are interested, I will share the link to the official website, AgileAI Labs, to your LinkedIn profile, and to the demo if people are interested.
Sounds great. Yes, you can go to our LinkedIn page too. We post there quite a bit, our white papers, technical capabilities, and anything that's coming new down the pike. And of course, we always like to communicate with people that are out in the field doing the work, because quite frankly, that's where the best ideas come from.
Thank you.